Je vais parler de, just some nonsensical rant about how pet ownership seems rather selfish and or indulgent and probably even wrong to me, of course. Maybe I'll throw in an aside about how all of my arguments today might not matter anyway. Who knows? Hey, XenPuck here. So it's been a tumultuous time in my household, right? So in the spirit of not only sharing good news on social media, right, and as a context as to why I'm feeling ranty about the moral failings of pet ownership, here's the deal, okay? Our cat recently died. If you've seen some of my clips about Mr. Fluffy, that's our cat. I guess technically it's wifey's cat, but sometimes I did think of Mr. Fluffy as my cat too, because I've never really had a pettable pet before this one. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe it's this loss that's framing what's on my mind today. Keep in mind, of course, that since Mr. Fluffy was my first real pet, I can really only talk about cats, right? More specifically. So what's been plaguing me lately is just whether it's a good and moral thing at all to keep a pet. So again, to be clear, I'm not judging other people, obviously, and I know my wifey really loves cats, and we've already started fostering a sick kitten since that event. And most likely we will get another permanent cat at some point. But from this narrow perspective that I can provide, the purpose of this rant is simply to list down what I consider some of the more moral quandries, explicit moral quandries about keeping pets that are definitely smart enough in our homes as pets, right? Obviously, I love Mr. Fluffy. I know all the positives of cat ownership and the feeling of love that one can derive from it, but this clip isn't about that, supposedly, right? It's just meant to help me organize my thoughts about what comes after this loss. Okay? So, if you enjoy some rants from a dude with clearly no production skills, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that. Okay, I'll be great regardless because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon to listen or hear about new videos. I don't really know what that is because I don't really do it myself, okay? But you guys can figure it out, okay? So, first, cats as pets can never really satisfy its innate curiosity for exploration and kinship in general, right? So let's talk about the kinship bit first. Sure, they've got an owner or two, especially at a small household like ours, right? But let's be honest, most people, that's not wifey and I, most people work, so it's going to be hard to entertain one's cats to the degree that they needs. So really, we're playing with our cat on our terms rather than its terms, right? Is that enough? I suppose that depends on the cat and the owners, right? But I would suspect that it may not be. Plus, it'll most likely never have a colony of other cat friends. I'm an introvert and I still have about a handful of friends instead of just one or two, okay? Maybe cats are that solitary by nature, but wouldn't care as much as having a cat colony. Things definitely do exist in the wild, though. I'm not an expert on cat behavior, but it sure seems like cats could potentially want more cat friends, right? Or at least any cat friends. Frankly, it's hard to imagine taking care of more than one cat at a time, at least for us, for me personally, of course. So is it fair to deprive cats of their most natural of companions? It seems rather suspect to me. Now, on to the next point, because we all see our cats staring out the window, itching to chase some squirrels or birds. Okay, now I know they want to be outside, but of course, at least in the cities that I've lived in, most cats do not get that freedom to roam, come and go as they please. In an urban environment, especially, I get it. A cat could get run over by a car or some such accident. So being kept indoors is the safest of choices. Yeah, I often want to compare this type of logic to how my wifey and I dealt with growing up and moving out onto our own, right? Because even for humans, right, the safest choice would have been to just continue living under our parents' roofs, if they would have us, of course, until one of us dies, right? Obviously, I don't think most human beings, or any reasonable human being, would choose that option. Yet with pets, at least in the West, right, we supposedly all consider our pets like our children, right? But certainly, if not children, but certainly family. So then why wouldn't I trust an adult cat to be exactly what it is and to go out into the world? I mean, maybe we as owners are afraid the cat won't return. But honestly, wouldn't the love of our pet shows us mean more if it chooses to return rather than being forced to stay here? Of course, I get it. Cat's not a person. May be ill equipped to deal with, people urban contexts, right? But whose fault is that for making the world a relatively cat unfriendly place, okay? It's certainly not theirs. Now, finally, I suppose my biggest problem with pet ownership is related to, our recent life events, right? And that is when a pet is under human care, its entire life is in our hands. We're just more powerful than it, right? The relationship feels uneven. I know people like to joke, especially for cats, right, that they basically own us since we feed it, we keep it entertained, and we even scoop its poo. So at least superficially, it looks like we're doing a lot more of the dirty work in exchange for the loveliness that can come from a bond between cats and a person, right? But the reality is that humans are the ones that hold the power of life and death for our pets, right? And that seems, to me at least, inherently wrong. Who are we to say when a cat has to go, right? It's not even just that black and white of life and death either, right? We've all heard of some crappy stories about families moving and just abandoning their pets as well. So that would be the gray in between, okay? But the feeling remains, whether it's abandonment or death, we get to decide that as humans, right? And we base it on factors that are mostly resource related, right? It's entirely reasonable to let a cat go if treatment options seem excessive for the amount of hope and the remaining quality of life that a pet might face if they were sick. I get it. It's a very rational decision that we need to make, and one that we most recently actually did make. But that doesn't make it feel right at all, right? Who am I to decide when and whether my pet dies, right? Why wouldn't or couldn't I have just let nature take its course, right? I guess what I'm driving at is that I don't really have all the answers to my own questions, right? Frankly, I just don't think I'm made of the certain stuff to have absolute control over any creature's life, okay, pet or human. I get it. I love snuggling with our cat, the fluffiest of all cats, and the most friendly too sometimes, at least when I wanted to be. But Mr. Fluffy, we couldn't give you a whole neighborhood or a barn to run around in, nor other cats to be friends with, alright? Or remove the cold logic of how we humans viewed how you were suffering near the end, right? We made our call based on our human feelings while being ignorant on how a cat could interpret the same events because, well, we are not cats. I guess that's really my longest lasting argument against pet ownership, right? Pets are meant entirely for us humans, right? Let's not kid ourselves, right? Because we cannot empathize with any pet down to its level. Therefore, what right do we have to dictate to it its entire life? I'm open to comments and criticism or whatever, or just sympathy below, okay? Feel free. Cheers, à la prochaine.